We are live.
Hey, great getting curious with you again, Nestor.
Yeah, so nice to see you again, Matt. Okay, let's proceed with our conversation about the Curiosity Project. So, what do we have for today, Matt? So, but what's the
Yeah,
next step that we can
yeah.
share with people?
Nice. Yeah. So today, the next part, the fourth part, is the micro lending program. So we've done the education
Oh,
center, the Curiosity R&D, the research and development, the members only club, and now it's the micro lending program, which facilitates and provides training related to micro lending. So anywhere from about 300 US dollars to $5,000 to support sustainable community agriculture, tourism, and entrepreneurship. And the nickname, I give nicknames to all of these that I could. This one is called a zebra zoo, and a zebra zoo for a couple reasons is it was inspired. It was inspired by my time. A lot of these are inspired by my time in Macedonia as a Peace Corps volunteer. But I work with a lot of startups in the Balkans, and there's a great gentleman who works, Igor Mishevsky, who works in
mhm.
Macedonia at the Balkans with sustainable startups, and he wrote a great piece on zebra startups. And you're like, what is a zebra startup, right? And his whole position was like everybody's chasing these unicorn, like these one in a
Oh,
billion companies, right? Because they want to take these shots, they want to they want to 10x or or 100x their money and all of this, but it's such a hit or miss. Where if you really want to look at how to do the most good for the world, rather than just throwing mud at the wall and hoping some billion-dollar unicorn sticks and wasting all that other stuff, what if we focused on zebras instead of unicorns? And it's fascinating because he gives it's a great article. We can share it and let everybody read it. But he goes into all the benefits of zebras, but also like zebras are they're kind of common, right? They might be as magical or majestic or everything else as a unicorn, but like what if we take that to startups? So what would a zebra company be, or a zebra startup? Well, that's maybe someone who just wants to have a startup that's enough to provide for his or her family, right?
mhm.
Or maybe they want to grow to about 20 employees or something. Like they're not looking to become Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos and buy super yachts. They just want to put food on their table and have enough time for quality of life or to spend with their children or something like this, right? The dirty little secret about entrepreneurship is it doesn't take, every entrepreneur doesn't need to make $10 million a year to be successful or even to be happy. Like what there are numbers out there. It's like money does make you happy. It was about 70,000 US dollars. I think now with inflation, it's probably up to 80 or 90. But what if we targeted on entrepreneurships to hit that minimum threshold of income to make them to not a minimum wage, but a true minimum income, so that they knew their Maslow's hierarchy needs were taken care of, and they were doing it from something they started themselves or something they created themselves or something they were working within their community or their families to do. And that's where these zebra companies come in. And what's cool too is because they're small and because they're all this, there can be a focus on things like sustainability. There can be a focus on whether we want to make it a green kind of company, or if you want to make it like tourism, or like ecotourism, or to bring tourists to where you live. This is where Bucaramanga comes into mind as well, right? And then lastly, and I'll shut up on this, is the other place that this idea came from is one of my former students, while I was in the Peace Corps in Macedonia. He now has a small farm in Macedonia, right? And he's got cows and chickens and goats and all of this. And he was talking to me about like how much a cow costs, but then how much a single cow, not buys him a yacht, but let's buy school supplies for his children, or gets food for his family. And the cost of a cow is like $300. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That's it. So what if there are, people are generous with their money. People want to help out and people want to get involved in stuff. But if people knew that $300 could not only buy a cow, but help contribute to a small business and provide for a family and a community, right? I could go on and on, because this is someone who didn't leave his small town for the bigger city and has remained to build a community where others have left, and the work needs to be done. And kind of going back to that idea of what if we solve smaller, bigger problems before the big problems first? What if we were able to, both as a curiosity project, help raise funds and provide funds for this, but also find a way to aggregate or to grab people from other places that can contribute either direct funding and or expertise, and they can profit from it. Like what if you can turn your $300 into, $30? I mean, you can do the math on it, but we can do that later. But the idea is that we could create a micro lending program, and again, the risk would be lower because it's capped at say $5,000, whatever it is. But we could provide not just a program, but really a system that doesn't exist right now, where someone anywhere in the world who needed $300 to $5,000, and maybe we could graduate it up later, that they could access this with low risk, without risking their house or anything else, but just small increments that would be paid back and contribute greatly. Yeah, and I'll shut up. But just part of this is inspired by Bucaramanga too. When I saw how much was being done by not just ecotourism, but just local tourism. Just about these aren't big corporations running this. These are locals that, and there's opportunity for more. But what if we could have even more? How many other entrepreneurs would be created out of this if they had quick access, easy access to small amounts to get them going or to help get them to the next stage. So yeah, that's the kind of the concept of the Zebra Zoo, and really curious to hear your thoughts on the directions that this could go and even the feasibility. Maybe I'm talking nonsense, but I think you could create a system. It's beyond crowdfunding and all that. That's old news. Like there's got to be a way that we could support anything from cows to someone just messaging me, he needs little money to get some developers to get their MVP, right? So whatever it is, from cows to technology, how could we help create more entrepreneurs just a little bit at a time rather than these big unicorn kind of startups?
Okay, Matt. So that's so beautiful from your part and from your end, to have this really high concept, on people, because there's one thing that is for sure. We need to change our conversation around what is success. If we are just going the way the crowd is walking in how we conceive the
Mm-hmm.
success, based pretty much on economy, because we are defining success in terms of economy. That's from, I don't know, that's from the last 200
Yep.
years.
Yep.
The definition of success, I would say the broad definition of success, is somebody who has resources to
Yep.
do many things, to do the thing that he wants, and to have a power and control. But all that, it's ephemeral, because at
Mm.
the end we only have one life. I know it doesn't matter if you profess one specific religion, or this one or the other one, A, B, C, D. It's just
Mm.
one life. Maybe you might believe in reincarnation or something like that, but it's just one at a time. We
Yep.
cannot have two or three. Yeah,
Yep.
the physics won't allow that. And because we are having this crazy conversation about what success means, and we forget pretty much the nature of
Mm.
the species, the nature of humans. And there are many things in our life. We need food, we need air, we need water, we need an ecosystem just to be able to survive.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to survive as a species, we need a partner. We need to be able to at least to have children,
Mm.
and so on. So basically, the success is usually is not found out there. Usually
Mm-hmm.
the success that I'm saying, hey, if we change the conversation and we need, hey, what is the success for you? It's not the success for everybody. As you just said, I'll bet that Elon Musk,
Mm.
his desire wasn't, to become Elon Musk
Well,
today. Maybe
yeah.
at the time he had another set of desires that we don't know, even if he considered himself a success person. I don't know. I don't know. That's so egotistical from our end to think
Mm.
that the people who has money, they consider themselves a successful person. I don't know. This is very egotistical. But the thing that is not egotistical is to be able to think that if we live in a I would say an environment, or an academic or a philosophical
Hmm.
environment, where I do respect what do you have in mind to be happy in your life, to be successful, to raise a family might be an indicator for success for you. To have
Mm.
a farm maybe is the indicator that you're looking for your life, but you do not have the access to the resources that
Yep.
allow you to have success. That's where the thing actually doesn't match for me, because
Yeah.
is how do we provide people with resources so
Mm.
they can be successful in their areas, in the area of their interests and needs. As you just
Hmm.
said before, maybe what I need, what I want, is just to be able to provide for my family, and to be able to provide food and shelter. Okay, that's my indicator, because I want to have time for reading, for I don't know, for learning how to play guitar, piano,
Something. Yeah.
flute, yeah, something like that. But that makes me happy. I'm not actually saying that I will have everything for free. No, it's that
Hmm.
I will I want to have access to that. But in the system that we do have today, having access to those resources is very limited,
Yeah.
because the way people have access to resources is based pretty much on geography. It's where do you live and what
Hmm.
resources do you have access to in that geography. But
Yep.
now we are living in a world that is that everybody is saying, we are connected to everybody. Hey, how true is that? Because if that will be true, I
Hmm.
will have the option to connect not just with people via internet, but
Yeah.
to connect with their resources. And the
Hmm.
beauty is,
Hmm.
if I have some resource that I can share with some person in the other side of the world, what's the technology, what's the channel, what's the medium that we might use to be able to share that? Maybe for some
Hmm.
people, $300 it might be a fortune. If we go to some countries in Africa,
Hmm.
maybe if we go to some countries like Venezuela, for example, $300
Hmm.
it's a lot of money. But if we go to the US, $300, you will say, okay, it's very close to 25 hours at a minimum rate.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, it's I don't know, it's not a factual number. It depends where you are. But the thing is,
Yeah.
yeah, to have a straight point is, if we are able to create this conversation, and this conversation creates the tools to
Hmm.
share the access. I'm not saying that we share the resources because I have too much. No, maybe I have something, but I will love to put this something. But we are
Hmm.
9 billion people in this planet,
Yeah.
and I say, hey, I will put $100, or I will put two hundred
Yeah.
dollars, or I will put my knowledge. I will put a
Yeah.
free classroom. I will put, I don't know, anything that I can put in this very big pool of
Cool. Hmm.
resources. People, I think we can create a better world, because creating a better world, as you
Well.
said, is not the I don't know, is not the think about looking for unicorns,
Well.
because
Yeah.
actually at the end of
Well.
the day it doesn't exist. But zebras is something that we have everywhere, and it's
Well.
really easy to find them. But I think it's going from the microeconomics to the
Uh-huh.
macroeconomics, because
Well.
sometimes we forget that how macroeconomics is built.
Yeah.
Macroeconomics is the result of micro decisions, and those
Yeah.
micro decisions, when a lot of people is doing it, and when a lot of people is accessing the resources, it creates macro effects. And
Hmm.
that's my initial thinking.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because when you're saying that, you made me jot something down. It made sense. It's you can't create a better world. What if you can't create a better world? It's impossible. But you can help the person out next to you. Do I mean you can't change? You can't make a better world. Like, all right, go to outer space, look at the world, and start. You know, it really is. It's a ridiculous thought. but that's what we focus on. But you can, you know, like you said, you can give $100 to help somebody start a business and help their family, right? It's small increments. It's the microeconomics if you want to impact the macro ones. And the other thing I would just add here too to kind of tie things together is it's like one is I agree. I'm glad you brought up the idea of a pool. Yeah, we basically we'd have a pool of resources, both money and other knowledge. Going back to the knowledge garden, right? Training, going back to the education center. So the idea is that all of these different parts of this curiosity project, they're all separate, but they all work together in concert, right? So that maybe I could see a whole process where somebody starts out by going to this education, the curiosity learning center, and they realize, hey, I'm not just a curious person, but this curiosity makes me a good engineer, or it makes me a good farmer, or it makes me a good whatever. And then not only makes me a good this, but it leads me to unique ideas to create something that filters them into the knowledge garden, the curiosity R&D, where then they can research. I was mentoring a student just yesterday, and he came up. He needs to go research a patent now, right? Well, after you go from the learning center, you can progress to the curiosity R&D knowledge center, where you can learn how to create a patent, see if existing patents are out there, or if there's something else you need to start your small business or whatever it is, or and then from there you would move into this zebra zoo, where you would be a part of the animals, the different entrepreneurs accessing this pool of resources now to help you take the knowledge that you gained at the R&D and the learning that you're doing at the learning center to then produce something that's profitable, both in terms of paying back that micro lending, that initial investment, and paying it back with interest. It doesn't have to be a ridiculous amount, but even we could be non-competitive. We could be lower than every bank or lending out there. But even if it's 1% interest on it, there's something to be gained, right? All that aside is they would not only be able to pay back the investment put in them, but they would be able to then generate enough profit going forward that they would no longer need the micro lending in the future, or they'd be able to reach their goals to begin with. But yeah, and there's more we'll discuss on the other components, but this curiosity project would work kind of individual, separately, but together at the same time.
Yeah, I'm thinking of some friends that I have that they are very involved in the cryptocurrency world.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that all the time I'm listening from them is that the decentralization of money and the possibility of exchanging
Mm-hmm.
resources from one person to another person in anywhere in the world where
Mm-hmm.
you have access to the internet in your phone, it creates a funnel of resources that would pretty much very close to zero the cost of the transaction.
Yeah.
And one thing that it's important to think to devise in this process is if we have person, if we have people, uh, I would say curious enough
Mm-hmm.
to be sure, or at least to think in a way of exchanging those resources that might change a lot of lives, because it's not just
Yep.
the thing, hey, I have this $300, because usually you say, yeah, I have the resources, what's next? So
Yeah.
basically we need the people who be curious enough to think in ways of the creation of tools. What this is one of the project of the curiosity project is how do
Yep.
you farm the tools to
Yep.
be able to connect the ideas with the real action, with where the real action is happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we say that we are not living anymore in this world with 190 something countries, but we are living in a world. That word. It's one
Yeah.
world. It's one world
Yeah.
where we can exchange things. We can exchange resources, maybe not physical in a very efficient way, but
Yeah.
digital resources like money, like knowledge, is really
Mm-hmm.
easy
Mm-hmm.
to be shared. But we are not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will, but we are not there yet. And it's a matter of yet. So
Yep.
basically, it's a matter of when. And when we are putting our thinking in the creation, on the way of facilitating, this micro lending program, and we say, hey, this is something that we need the next year, not in 20 years, the next year.
Yep.
We will have macro effects in 3 years, in 4 years from now. But we need the tools,
100%.
Yeah, we
Yep.
need the tools to be able to help this family in Greece, in Macedonia, in Peru, Colombia, Albania, Ukraine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
Missouri.
where. Yeah,
You
Missouri. Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
it's all over. Yeah, and it's also it's just sorry to interrupt, but it's just the to riff on what you're saying is just there's a beauty in entrepreneurship to really again change the world to make the world better. And again, it's not making the world better. It's just individuals moving from their what they're currently doing into entrepreneurship. It just makes a more existentially speaking, it's a better life, and that everything, all the energy you spend goes right back to you, right? And not only I think it is lead to more satisfying lives for individuals. I've yet to meet an attorney or someone who works in the corporate world who doesn't say they love their job or that they love their life now that they're doing it. They'll tolerate it, but there's that disconnect, right? But you find entrepreneurs, many who are broke or many who are struggling, and they're like, I wouldn't do anything different for anything, right? And then of course you find the successful ones are successful, as you say. How do we define that? But basically the successful entrepreneurs I find aren't the billionaires. They're the ones who are making enough, like where I described before, where they work hard, they feel like they've accomplished something during the day, but they're also not connected to it. And there's not that disconnect, I should say, where a lot of traditional jobs are, because if they still have time for their family, they still have time for the things that they enjoy, their interests, and other things that make them human. And then lastly on that, just the way things are developing with AI and our the age of artificial intelligence, and just the sheer number of jobs and tasks that it already is taking, that there's going to be a void of I think human resources. And what are we going to do with all those human resources? What are all these humans going to do when their jobs are displaced? And entrepreneurship is tremendous, and that's why I also mentioned things like agriculture, tourism, kind of things that you may not consider as entrepreneurs doing, right? And there could be a lot in kind of non-traditional spaces where not on the big scalable, again, unicorn level, but just on the small enough level to give them purpose in their lives and or provide for their resources for their family. There's still an infinite amount of opportunities for entrepreneurs to do that. So I think it would help communities financially, economically, but also just in terms of just overall satisfaction. And believe it or not, I'm selfish. I want other people to be living satisfied, kind of happy lives, right? And you're like, well, why? It doesn't affect me, right? No, because I want the person that that's driving in front of me or behind me that they didn't just have a super crappy day, right? That they're not gonna like flip out or lose their temper or something else, right? I want the people I meet at the grocery store to be having a good time, right? It just creates it changes the mood of everything. And I think entrepreneurship and people finding purpose in what they do has some of these side effects. It makes not only the individuals better, but the downstream effects is that communities get better, communities become happier places, and more sustainable in other senses of the word. So I get really motivated to inspired to see this something like this happen. So I'm excited that you have interest as well, and you're helping share this and spread the curiosity on how we can focus on creating more zebras and not just chasing unicorns.
Yep, yeah. That's my thinking as well, is to be able to have thousands of zebras, millions of zebras
Millions, yeah,
around. Yeah, billions. We have 9
billions. Why
billion
not? Yeah,
people
yeah.
in the world, so that way we are creating wealthy. It is the wealth creation. Is not the wealth accumulation. I will say it's the wealth creation, because
Yep.
when we think in terms of wealth accumulation, we are thinking on a finite model. If we
Mm-hmm.
think in terms of wealth creation, we are thinking on an infinite model,
Yeah.
and that's better. Just to give you an example, I use a lot of tools,
Hmm.
for my daily jobs. Now I'm using AI tools for different tasks during my regular day, every single day, pretty much. And for example, maybe I will say, hey, it's really hard. We do not have the technology today to be able to lend $100 to somebody in the other part of the world, and I might be looking for some interest on that capital.
Yeah.
But I can say, hey, do you have some videos, some short videos that you could
Hmm.
use every day for your Instagram channel, for your TikTok, for I don't know, anything,
Yeah.
and you want to translate those videos into Spanish, I can say very easy. And that's also something that is very easy for me. I can say, hey, I can help you.
Hmm.
If you send me your video, I can use one of those tools that I'm using, and I can translate the video and I will send it to you in less than five
Yep.
minutes. So
Yep.
it takes me 5 minutes of my time actually because I'm already paying for that tool. And
Yep.
the thing is, I might be able to help somebody that in his country, that
Mm.
process might be very expensive, or just for them to be able to think in paying the fees to have access to this tool might be very expensive, but they will be using the
Yep.
tool just one time a day. So that becomes expensive. But I can help you. So basically, I can share the resources. That's the thing that I'm saying.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
it's not just to be focused on money. It's resources.
No. Well, yeah.
So basically, we can have this big pool of
Hmm.
resources, not
Yeah.
just money. Of course, you say, hey, of course, knowledge is one of the powerful resources that we have. But yeah, but we do have access to
Well,
machinery. That's I would
yeah.
say that might be the dream for a person from the late 1800s.
Yeah.
Hey, how do we share the power of the steam machine around the world? Yeah, you need to move the machine.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
today, we do not need to move
Well,
machines to be able to
yeah.
produce things. And I say that might be my first,
Well,
the starting point is to be able to lend your time, maybe.
sure. Well, and also just I know I don't want to go too long on this, but you popped something else in my head as far as resources. Is there are $5 to $50,000 emails out there. You could do an email introduction to somebody, especially if they kind of go
Yeah.
through if they're in the curiosity process, they've been vetted, or you kind of understand, or there can be some trust or understanding of what it is they have to offer. You go, oh yeah, you know what? You're starting a like a micro tourism kind of project down in Bucaramanga. Hey, I know someone next door who runs a tour agency here in California. I'll send you an email, and you make a contact and sign a contract, right? For something. So yeah, you're right. This pool of resources, money might be the least valuable of the resources there. Like when we talk about micro lending, there's a lot that we can lend. It's knowledge, it's technical tools, it's network, it's any number of things. So yeah, that's a really yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's a lot of things to think about. Yeah, many things to be curious
Yeah.
about. That's the beauty of being curious. It's not that you have
Yeah.
this limited way of thinking. No, it's unleash the potential of thinking that the curiosity about. So, Matt, as usual,
Yeah.
that's really nice to get curious with you.
Likewise. Thanks again.
Okay, so you have a beautiful rest of the day.
Yeah. You too. Talk next week.